Yeah, I get all tickled inside when I see you doing your thing over there, Gerald, with
Oh,
the, with the,
great.
with the, with the Black Panther Party.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
It's more, you'll see me more in my natural element when I'm out there. It's been doing it for a while.
Right, right. Yeah.
All love, peace, peace, peace. Sankofa 180 family, Brother Juro, peace and respect. Here with the Sankofa 180 crew, Brother Lorenzo, Brother Ump,
What
Mr.
up?
Carey. Today is a solo return, so happy solo return.
Happy solar return, Queen.
Happy solar return, happy solar return, happy solar return. Hey man, that's a wonderful, wonderful thing, man. Welcome to Sankofa 180 degrees. Carrie, you are the star.
Oh boy, that's a lot. I love you, Kings. Thanks for
We love you too, King. We
all
love you
your
too.
happy wishes.
We love you too. We do.
Yeah, so what up? It's Sankofa 180 degrees. We about to pump this jam and then get it rolling.
Let's do it.
Running the wallets and planning for the daily. You know my damn bed or rent the castle headed. Big mama of the town, I'm the big talk. I don't just talk about, but kind I do that civil walk. I walk the freedom. The freedom riders coming to my house, the horse to meet. We went to corner street and sat, and only wife was eating. Yo, when I pulled his gun up to my face, and I kept eating. What you know about that 335? What you know about escaping to the strike on the low? So that the clan don't know. They looking for this Negro. After I put on the show, on that bus like, cause we ain't getting up. Matter of fact, we sitting up. Trying to get me up, but you ain't big enough. Been tough, walking down that rows of the bounce. So it don't bother me when they take out the dogs in Alabama. When you hit it, bop, bop, better drop. I empty out that clip, cause big tub and don't stop. Get down and get popped, and mouse is my heart. Don't run me through my Glock, stop playing with me. I said I hate to knock your teeth out, peace out. You gon' knock cause you playing with your life. I do not fight, you don't say. I didn't come to play, I came for the slaves. We can do it the easy way, I went to do it the hard way. The trust is hard, let them go, you can die. Was in the union as a spy, came as a nurse, but ended on front line, and I ain't lying.
I got one more for you. I'm gonna send that real quick. Carrie wanted to hear this one, so it's her birthday.
Yeah, put it in their work.
Yeah. There you go, Jamie. Excuse me for the delay, but I couldn't leave this one out on that special day.
Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. We want black power. 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 That's right. That's what we want. Black power. We don't have to be ashamed of it.
This is not a regular, this is that boom, blah, blah, blah. Some they call it secular, I just call it black, black, black. Marcus Garvey, Bookman Dottie, bring that army, black, black, black. Malcolm X and Kwame Ture, this is where I'm at. If you wanna talk to me about black, black, black. Ali Selassie the first, Negus Nagas, let's talk about that. Kaboom, Nanny Maroon and all the Maroons, let's talk about that. The real Underground Railroad, the first subway for black, black, black. The freedom train begins with your brain. Get in on track. Whether justice or injustice, how do you react? Can you stand there laughing while they shoot us in the black? This is what some rappers sound like every time they rap. I'm raising up the red and the green and the black. Even with no cops in the hood, we still hear click. reach out. This is what I rap about. Get up, get out, speak up, speak out, reach up, reach out. Too many selling out. Get up, get out, reach up, reach out, lift up, lift out, get out. Time to ask the question now. Are you really black, black, black? It is not a mystery. We under attack, attack, attack. If you're chatting fuckery, you whole our people back, back, back. Time to put aside the fantasy and deal with fact, fact, fact. This is not the time to be talking all that crap, crap, crap. Those that talk that crap, crap, crap are those that don't fight back, back, back. You can say what you like, but real skill I never lack, lack, lack. Black is more a consciousness, the way you think and act, act, act. Yo, get up, get out, speak up, speak out, reach up, reach out. This is what black about. Get up, get out, speak up, speak out, reach up, reach out. This is what I rap about. Get up, get out, speak up, speak out, reach up, reach out. Too many selling out. Get up, get out, reach up, reach out, lift up, lift out, get out, lights out.
We have stayed here and we begged the president. We begged the federal government. That's all we've been doing, begging, begging. It's time we stand up and take over. Take over. We have to do what every group in this country did. We got to take over the communities where we outnumber people so we can have decent jobs, so we can have decent houses, so we can have decent roads, so we can have decent schools, so we can have decent justice.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's what's up. That's what anybody want to speak on that first?
Yeah, that's that KRS-One bringing in knowledge, showing all the historical figures. If anybody just was into it deep and wanted to know, you would just keep watching that video and he showed so many people, figure out who those people are. You should be able to name them all. And you can name them all, then you into your history. You knowing who been putting in the work for you, because every picture you show was somebody that was fighting for our freedom and liberation for us to where we can be, what we doing today. And we ain't supposed to get none of that ground back. So, yeah. KRS-One. Knowledge reigns supreme over everyone.
Ancestors. You see that? Yeah,
Yes.
I like that. That's
what's
right.
up. Yeah. I'm glad you guys approve, man. So we're going. So I need the screen share, Jamie.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, man. You good?
All right, I'm gonna try and do it on this computer, and if not, I'll
right.
switch over to my phone.
You got it. Peace to you, Eric. Peace to you, Eric. Peace to you, King.
All right, peace, family. How's everybody doing?
All right, King.
All right.
Jonathan is back. Family.
Yes, sir. My phone had died.
All right.
Give me just a second here. Oh, shoot. You can't hear.
Of the hunt will always glorify the
There you
hunter.
go.
African history. Until the lions have their own history. The topic of whether ancient Egyptian civilization originated in Africa has been a subject of great interest and research in the field of Egyptology. Many people might not know, but this question was extensively debated and resolved more than 40 years ago at a significant conference in Cairo, Egypt. In this event, leading experts in the field of Egyptology engaged in a week-long discussion. Despite the significance of these findings, which showed strong evidence of the Egyptian language and culture having African roots, this information has not been widely known or discussed. In today's video, we're going to explore these historical discussions and their eye-opening conclusions. In 1974, UNESCO acknowledged that the ancient Egyptians were of African heritage, emphasizing Egypt's deep roots in the African continent. This recognition was a significant milestone in the study of African history. During a conference held from January 28th to February 3rd, 1974 in Cairo, Egypt, scholars Cheikh Anta Diop and Théophile Obenga presented compelling evidence that challenged the prevailing views in Egyptology, asserting the African identity of the ancient Egyptian civilization. This event, though not widely known among the general public, was a pivotal moment in redefining the understanding of Egypt's historical and cultural legacy. The Cairo Symposium was organized as part of UNESCO's project to create a comprehensive history of Africa. The key question UNESCO faced was whether to include the history of ancient Egyptian civilization as a part of African history. This required a thorough and scientific examination to determine if ancient Egypt's culture, language, and the ethnicity of its people were closely linked to the African continent. The necessity to prove the African heritage of ancient Egyptian civilization arose due to the existence of several conflicting views among historians and Egyptologists. There were three main opinions. One, the most prevalent view among Western scholars and specialists was that the creators of the pharaonic civilization were originally a white European people. They believed these people migrated to Africa, where over time they tanned and intermixed with the African black populations. This theory suggested that the Egyptian people were of white European origin, and the darker skin tones seen in pharaonic frescoes were simply the result of this intermixing. Two, the second group consisted of Orientalist scholars who specialized in the study of so-called Oriental civilizations. They argued that the people who established the pharaonic civilization came from West Asia and founded this civilization on African land. Three, the third group, which included scholars like Cheikh Anta Diop and Théophile Obenga, asserted that the Egyptian civilization was a black civilization, created by black people, and was an integral part of the African world. This viewpoint faced significant opposition from both Orientalists and Western scholars, who often used their media influence to promote the idea that the Egyptian civilization was not of black origin. In response to the three conflicting viewpoints regarding the origins of ancient Egyptian civilization, a decisive and scientifically grounded conclusion was necessary. To achieve this, UNESCO, influenced by the initiative of Cheikh Anta Diop, organized the Cairo International Symposium on Egyptology. This event brought together the world's leading specialists and their teams to discuss and debate these issues. Cheikh Anta Diop and Théophile Obenga were among the key participants. The symposium focused on two main topics: the demographic history of ancient Egypt and the interpretation of the Meroitic script. However, the central issue of interest to all was determining the true roots and nature of ancient Egyptian civilization. At the UNESCO-organized symposium, a diverse group of experts from around the world, including 20 specialists, 5 observers, and 2 representatives from UNESCO, hailing from 14 different nations, dedicated many hours over several days to discuss the origins of ancient Egyptian civilization. Among all the participants, Cheikh Anta Diop and Théophile Obenga stood out as the only two advocating the perspective that the pharaonic civilization was a black civilization. They were the sole representatives of this viewpoint from Africa, in contrast to the other 18 scholars present. To establish that ancient Egyptian civilization was indeed African, it wasn't enough to just show that the pharaonic people had black skin. The task also involved demonstrating that the Egyptian people, 1, spoke languages indigenous to Africa, 2, had culture, customs, and traditions rooted in the African continent. To scientifically validate these points, experts to draw upon a wide range of academic fields, including archaeology, anthropology, biology, chemistry, geography, and linguistics. They needed to employ various methods from all these disciplines. This required extensive study and research, representing a significant and high-level scientific endeavor. At the conclusion of the scientific colloquium, the findings of Cheikh Anta Diop and Théophile Obenga, who argued that the pharaonic civilization was an African civilization, were recognized as the most convincing. The final report of the colloquium acknowledged the thorough and detailed preparation of their presentations. Despite the comprehensive preparatory documents provided by UNESCO, the work of Diop and Obenga stood out, creating a notable imbalance in the discussions. Their scientific demonstrations of the African nature of Egyptian civilization were so compelling that other scientists, despite their numbers and expertise, could not effectively counter their arguments. This significant scientific milestone, achieved almost 50 years ago, confirmed through rigorous research that the pharaonic civilization was not white or Oriental, but distinctly African. Since then, ongoing serious research has only further reinforced the understanding that Egyptian civilization was a part of African heritage. Some detractors, unable to accept the findings, have chosen to ignore or downplay this event, acting as if it never occurred. This is one reason why many people, including Africans, still have questions about the origins of the pharaonic civilization, even though science addressed this matter nearly 50 years ago. There are instances where Western and Eastern media, as well as some publications and documentaries, continue to present misleading information about Egyptian civilization. These misrepresentations are often driven by motives unrelated to scientific truth. It's important to acknowledge and celebrate this symposium as a time when truth and justice prevailed. This event was a landmark in African historiography, a moment when Cheikh Anta Diop and Obenga made significant contributions to the understanding of African history. Their efforts not only highlighted the rich legacy of their continent, but also showcased the triumph of their ancestral land in the global arena.
So we want
That's,
to
that's go ahead, go.
Yeah, so we want to give credit to this that video.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me go back.
Cheikh Anta Diop wrote The African Origins of Civilization. I don't know if any of you gentlemen have read that particular book, but he goes into great detail about the dynastic contributions of Black people, expressed in a way that history just don't give to us, as we're taught or have been taught.
The topic of whether ancient Egyptian civilization.
Are you talking about this one right here, King?
For the title?
No, I'm talking about Jonathan.
The African origins of civilization.
That's what you see the book?
Where is it? I don't see it.
Oh, you might can't see me.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You see it?
Yeah. Let's see half of it.
Yeah, that's it right there.
Yep. My man.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. We all got it.
My man. Yep.
So the rest of us can share briefly on that video, but don't go too deep into it because they said it's going to cover some things too. I played that video first because at the end of Asa's video, at least where we're going to stop at, I'll play 25 minutes of it, and then we'll stop and talk it, and then I'll play another 26 minutes. And then the remainder of that video, I'm just going to put on Sankofa because they're talking about, he's talking about Diop's work, right? And how he instilled it into his book. But I didn't want to, make it go, that long. So, so if you guys want to talk about that, we can, if anybody wants to comment on that, let me stop sharing.
I like the way he had the three categories, and one was, he said something about the tanned and then the light skin. I guess somehow they came up with dark skin. I'm like, wow, like is that really how they think that shit came? I mean, did y'all catch that part?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, like that doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So like they try to really trick the math on that. You see what I'm saying? They really try to trick the math on that, man. Like try to make like we came from them when, nah, man, y'all came from us. You got to think about that, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that was one of their arguments was, you know what I'm saying? And I just, you just got to respect, man. When the two brothers went in there and they couldn't answer. They ain't had no answer for it. And these supposed to be like the top Egyptologists in the world. And they ain't got no answer for Theophile Banga or Sheikh Anta Diop. Now tell me what they whooped they went up in there and whooped their ass. That's what they did. They went up in there and whooped their ass. You know what I'm saying? And they and now today they still trying to make the claim that Egypt was white. And again, I agree. It just depends on your time frame. Right? Ancient Egypt was not white people. Now, when you come to the end of the native Egyptian rule, yeah, those are not Africans. So then you could say that there was, you know what I'm saying, there wasn't Africans at that point that was ruled in Egypt, right? So that, you know what I'm saying, so that's how I say, that shit they it's tricky because you have to hold them down to chronology. You really had to, that's where you have to use the chronology at right there. Because now you have to tell me a time frame of when you talking about.
Yeah, so don't go too far into that, Jamie, because they can uncover that.
Okay.
Feel me?
I stop. Okay.
Yeah, I know because you can go, but I mean,
all right, I'll stop.
It's on your own discretion. I'm just letting you know that Asa is gonna cover a bunch of that.
No,
I ain't gonna mess it up.
Got the three hypotheses: the white, the Oriental, and the black. Them are all hypotheses at that time when Diop was doing it. That makes sense?
Right.
Hypotheses mean you really don't have the evidence as of yet. That makes sense? So you can talk. Hypothesis is just theories.
Conjecture.
So everybody had their theory. And the Egyptologists who had been in Egypt running the shit, they had all they quote unquote scientists saying they different things. When it come down to bringing scientific evidence at that UNESCO conference 50 years ago in 1974, Diop and Obango were the only ones who had scientific evidence.
Right.
That makes sense?
Right.
That's why they beat them. It's not that they beat them because they just beat them. The other people don't have no evidence to back what they talking, even though they call themselves scientists. That's why I try to teach y'all. I don't care what nobody, or scientists, whoever, whatever he fucking saying. If he don't got that evidence, it's dead. You with me?
Right.
Now, our problem is we'll get into these arguments today, as they say. We're supposed to just say, hey, Diop already did this in 74. I ain't got to re-argue. That's me being stupid. I don't know my history if I'm finna try to re-argue something that the great Diop done did. If y'all ain't defeat him, what the fuck am I gonna say? So for us with our egos, let's stop trying to put it on Diop. He already did it. And ain't no more argument. Yeah, that makes sense?
Right. That's right.
That's what we doing wrong, not referencing our sources. Just like you finna play now, Lorenzo, and Asa Hilliard is going to get more into it. Asa Hilliard is the one that, when you hear about our scholars dealing with it, right? Asa Hilliard was the scholar that went back first, and then he started teaching other scholars about Kemet. Then Dr. Ben and all them went back to Kemet, and them being scholars, they might have more people up under them. They start teaching that same thing, but Asa Hilliard wasn't interested in getting regular people back. He got the scholars back. That's what makes Asa Hilliard so cold.
Hey.
Yeah, any scholar that teach ancient Kemet, Asa Hilliard brought him back to Kemet first. He was the one.
Hey, Diop went in that motherfucker. Diop went up in there and she started showing them people them skulls. Diop wasn't playing.
Hold on.
What?
Diop is known from John Henry Clark. John Henry Clark comes up under Asa Hilliard. You with me?
Right.
John Henry Clark was the one that brought it back to him. Diop shit was known. John Henry Clark was like, I got to bring him to America. I got to get his books written in English. His books is written in French.
John Henry Clark was representing
and
him.
on John Henry Clark, one of his major documentaries, The Long Way Home, he's the one that's telling us about it. It was a great man. He called him the Pharaoh of Egypt. He's like, Diop, Diop, Diop. We know about Diop because of John Henry Clark. We just don't reference him as much as we should. Diop is that super scientist. John Henry Clark is a historian. Diop is the scientist. And I'm gonna end it on that.
Damn skulls. And he went in there and popped them motherfuckers' heads with the damn skulls. Yeah, look here.
Okay. Diop is the first one.
We're gonna show you how this shit work, baby. We're gonna show you this evidence right here. All that talk. We talk. Hey, look, talk. I don't want you to talk me to death. I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about, and then that's gonna do the talking.
You gotta have the skit. You gotta have just like we talked about Anthony Browder. Anthony Browder was talking about that shit earlier. He could only talk about it. He had to be the scientist now to get the evidence and touch it himself. Diop was that scientist. When you looked into who Diop was, and now he was arguing with their ass, they kept rejecting him. Well, I'm finna become a scientist in this. Now I'm the goddamn PhD. You ain't finna tell me nothing. They was lying to him the whole time. They made him be a multi-genius like Imhotep. They made him be that. And that's what we're looking at Anthony Browder now. Anthony Browder was more of a historian talking about it. Now he's turning into an archaeologist. He got access to the evidence. Them two different things from a historian and a scientist. We all could be historians by studying. It's a whole different thing we got to go to be that archaeology to touch it. And
archaeology,
when
anthropology, he doing both of them. He doing all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Sorry
sir.
for talking so long.
No, you good. You good. You good. You good, man. That's good information, King. Push that. Yeah. Push it. Push it.
We're gonna get into I didn't know that John Henry Clark was under Asa Hilliard, so we about to listen to Asa Hilliard.
Yeah, man. John Henry Clark referenced a lot of Diop work too.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Eric, you want to say something?
Hey, y'all covered it, man. That's good so far. I like that video too.
Okay, bet. I'll send it to you. Jonathan, you want to say something real quick?
Yeah, real quick. Funny thing about his story and historian, his story as a conqueror, I get the right to dictate. I have the ability to dictate what truth I want presented. And no matter what contributions are given by anybody in history, except there be somebody sent to go and look it up in an honest and objective way, like the likes of Henry Clark, Asa Hilliard, and the other gentleman referred to in that last video. They, had a reason, but these other people come as taking mere positions to represent an institution that more times than not they know is a lie. I'm mindful of the fact that, like even in scripture, the Jews are known as the chosen ones in society, and having that position in the minds of man, and the people like that are just so easily led in the wrong direction or take history for the way it's written, they'll go in line with that, like you something less than, and they're able to rewrite history because there's like in kindergarten, you start with one story and in the line, and by the end of the line, the whole story is changed. And where our history is concerned, the spoils of war are your mineral riches, your scientific accomplishments, your women and your land and that kind of thing. But the riches, the true riches, is the wealth acquired in knowledge and science and view of oneself in as far as that structure goes between man and God and this guy. and where that setup is concerned. And so, without going on some long tangent, I've watched a movie where what's the brother's name with the big eyes? The snakes on the plane. I can't remember.
You talking about Nicolas Cage? Oh,
No, brother.
you talking about
damn
you talking
snake.
about the Don. You talking about Samuel L. Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson. He was breaking a guy who had had bombs all over the country. And what he told the man was, we gonna kill you. Whether your bombs go off or not, we gonna kill you. You ain't gonna have nothing to say about your motivation for doing what you've done. They was trying to break him, and the guy wouldn't break. He said, but when you die, nobody's gonna know that you were ever here. Nobody's gonna hear one word about. It's kind of like cutting the nose off the Sphinx. What's the purpose of it? I just wanted to add that, if you have the dictate, as far as being a conqueror is concerned, you get to write history the way you want to. And it's tables like this that are exposing people like and myself to a reality that's foreign to anything we were taught outside of or inside the traditional educational systems, the school, the church, and what have you. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing you brought up was that that these archaeologists and these Egyptologists are working for institutions, but their focus still is to make them own self more supreme.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes,
so
sir.
let's get into the Carrie.
And the axiom that our ancestors always use on that one, or the proverb, is when the lion tells his story, until the lion tells his story, the hunter will always glorify.
Come on.
Right.
My man.
Right.
Hey, I want to give a shout out to Theophile Banga, Rest Easy King. Because he had a whole lot to do with that too.
Yeah, and rest easy King Asa Hilliard too.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he died in I think 73. So
no, not Asa Hilliard.
No, 2007.
Asa Hilliard died in the 80s.
Yeah. I'm looking at 2000.
No, Asa Hilliard died in like 2007.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
80s, okay.
Yeah, the 2007.
Diop died in the 80s.
80s, okay. He Diop in the 80s, yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna play 25 minutes of this video, and then we'll stop and have a brief biopsy of it, and then we'll get back into the rest of it, and then we can conclude with that part.
So I call it 11 categories of converging evidence showing that ancient Kemet was and we can look at, in particular, at the chapter that he does, saying, I've been emphasizing.
So I'm going to stop it at this point, and that's where Diop's 11 categories of covering evidence showing that ancient Kemet was native Black African, and people can go on Sankofa and watch that. And this is the reason why I played Diop's video first. Maybe it'll encourage people to follow up on that. So let's get to Asa. We want to give credit to Wasat Educational Productions in Georgia, and hopefully this will stay up on YouTube for us. I just want to say too, real quick, you may want to get a pencil and a paper and write down questions that you may have, points of reference that you want to hear something about, and statements that you want to make. But in the interim of taking that break, we don't want to go too long, but thorough.
Kemet, the glorious jewel of ancient Africa. Her story is locked behind doors that are more than 5,000 years old. Behind each door lies a maze of data that can confound even experienced researchers. But we'll unlock those doors with master keys. Dr. Asa G Hilliard III, one of the leading researchers in the field of chematology, and the Fuller E. Calloway Professor of Urban Education at Georgia State University.
We should use the term Kemet rather than the term Egypt, because that is the name that the Kemetic people use to refer to themselves. The name Egypt was used by Greek people and is therefore a foreign name, not a native African or a native Egyptian name.
Listervelt Middleton, one of the leading educational television producers on African history.
Why is ancient Kemet so important to the world and to Black people, African people in particular?
Ancient Kemet is important because it's humankind's oldest civilization. It's the development of the best effort of a group of people to organize themselves. And for Africa, that's especially important since African people have been so defamed, even to the extent that some have said that African people had no civilization. In fact, African people developed the first civilization, which was Kemet. It is as important to African people as Greece is to European people.
What did these Africans develop in the way of science?
Well, of course, in the development of civilization, we would refer to Kemet as a high technical civilization. The sciences, as we know them, were well advanced in Kemet, thousands of years before they had that kind of development before. The art of writing, astronomy, music, any area that we now consider to be an important academic area already had its beginning in Kemet, and it was very well developed.
Now, you know, a lot of African Americans watching this will say now, what do the descendants of African slaves in the United States have to do with these ancient Africans in Kemet or Egypt?
Well, it's important for any group of people to have a sense of, or to have the ability to answer three questions about themselves. And these questions are Booker T. Washington Coleman, a Washington, D.C. historian's questions that he uses in organizing his educational experiences for children. He says every human being ought to be able to answer the question, who am I? Where in the world am I? How in the world did I get here? Now, most well-developed nations spend millions, maybe billions of dollars answering those questions for themselves. That's why you have Smithsonian Institution for the United States. That's why you have libraries. That's why you have universities that invest in history departments and so forth. African people have almost forgotten because we haven't had the resources to take care of that part of our existence. It is the knowledge of one's history that gives a strong sense of belonging and identity, which provides the basis for group unity, which provides the basis for political and economic power.
What is the connection, the genetic connection, the cultural connection between the Africans who are now in the United States and those of ancient Kemet or Egypt?
Well, it's fairly clear that the pattern of movement of people on the African continent, and it moves from,
we'll go to the map.
It moves from beginnings here in the Nile Valley beginnings,
okay,
where the Nile River actually starts right here, and it will go down here, joined by another Nile, the blue Nile coming from Ethiopia, the white Nile coming from here, joining here and coming this way. So the migration pattern of human beings was down this river into Egypt, and then there were migration patterns over into West Africa, many times, and some of the time the migration actually went from Egypt into across the top of the Sahara and into these parts. And we believe there are people here now who are quite similar, and probably, as was said in the book by Felix Du Bois, Timbuktu the Mysterious, they're probably both the culture and the genetic descendants of the people of Egypt, and they're the Dogon people here in Mali.
Let me ask you to go over that again, just to make sure that
Right.
that we get all of it.
Okay, early man begins here in this area.
And we're talking about the cultural connection, the genetic connection.
We're talking about the people first, the genetic connection. And then, of course, they carry their culture down the river. These were black people here. They carried their culture down the river before they went out and populated the rest of the earth. Then, of course, they migrated not only north, but they also migrated from here out into parts of West Africa into the south. They then also migrated from Egypt, which is here, or Kemet, as we should call it, across the Sahara into areas of West Africa. Mali would be a case in point.
Okay. Now, some African American parents will say, our children are maiming each other. Our children are on drugs. And here you are talking about ancient African history. Why is this relevant? How do you respond to that?
It's one of the major pieces. It's not the only piece. You can't say that if someone takes a course in chematology that they will stop drugs tomorrow. But you can say that if a group of people has no sense of being a part of the historical world, that is, if we see ourselves as mere spectators, that we just sat on the sidelines as the march of humanity went by, that has an effect on how you live your life. And one way we know this is that we watch what happens when children and adults learn this information about African people. The difference in attitude, the difference in self-esteem, self-concept, self-image, you can almost see those things change before your very eyes.
What are you seeing? What have you seen?
Well, I get letters from young men in prison who, upon reading some of the works of great African historians and seeing some of the illustrations that we have to offer, who are abruptly shocked, changed, and almost put on a new mission. They almost take
Unmute yourself.
they learn this information.
What are you seeing? What have you seen?
Well, I get letters from young men in prison who, upon reading some of the works of great African historians and seeing some of the illustrations that we have to offer, who are abruptly shocked, changed, and almost put on a new mission. They almost take up a new purpose. And I have many letters like this, as well as people who are well educated, maybe even people at universities and colleges who have spent 20 and 30 years in their discipline. But when they learn this information, they talk about having a transformation experience, and they are very explicit about how these things affect them. So, we have abundant examples of how this works, and it would be really wonderful to figure out a way to be able to show that.
Okay. Now, master keys to the interpretation of data on Kemet. What is this concept of master keys, and how did you arrive at it?
Okay, the idea of a master key is simply that in the face of the fact that there is so much information on ancient Kemet, so much information on Africa for that matter, and it comes to us in bits and pieces, like little episodes. In order to give a sense of order and coherence to it, it's necessary to identify certain key concepts, key principles, guiding ideas that will organize all of this information so that it makes some sense to the person who is trying to comprehend it. It's a study tool, a guide for the analysis of information, right?
Okay. Let's take a look at the first graphic.
Kemetic culture was pre-dynastic. Let me go to the timeline for this because it's,
let us wait a minute for the time okay.
Okay, here we have a time chart that shows this line here, which is a line that starts way before 3000 BC, and it comes to a period of time after Christ. And this is the line of culture showing that the way of life of the ancient Kemites remained the same for over 3000 years. This, of course, is their political control. Now, these are the 4 golden ages of ancient Kemet. But this is the dynastic period that begins here, after which we have these 4 golden ages. When we say pre-dynasty, we mean before Dynasty 1, things were going on back here that are not well documented.
Dynasty 1,
before Dynasty 1, which was before the founding of Kemet as a nation.
In the year?
And this would go back as many years, we don't know. Some people say another 5,000 years. Some say another 20,000 years. In fact, the Kemetic historian Mir N. Jehudi, or Manito, suggested that you could go back to 25,000 years at the time that Kemet was ruled by the gods, and then finally by these wise people, and then finally it was organized as one nation in Dynasty 1. So, for example, we know that not 3000 BC, but at 4236, or some people say 4241 BC, the calendar that we use now was already in operation in the Nile Valley. 42,036 or 4241 BC. That calendar was already in place. That is an incredible thing to realize the technology, the mathematics, the number of years of observation that it would take to create that calendar. And that shows that the culture is older than the nation, in other words. So Kemetic culture is pre-dynastic. So the main point of this master key is that we should look in Africa for a long period of development, and we should not begin our analysis with the beginning of the nation of Kemet. We should look for what went before it.
Okay.
Okay, the New York Times had an interesting article which was about the oldest nation in the world. And this is an example of what I was just talking about.
Back to the chart.
Here's Kemet, 3100 BC, beginning. But in the New York Times, they tell us there was another nation that is somewhere around 3500 BC, at least 200, maybe 300 or 400 years older than Kemet. There's this nation called Tasseti, and this nation is further up south on the river in an area called Nubia, and that is called the oldest monarchy in the world. And of course, they excavated the graves of these kings in Nubia, and these kings in Nubia were said to be tall, black-skinned people. The goddess Isis and her child were already in place at the beginning of Kemet,
which was, you said,
which was
3100
BC,
dynastic.
and then that's dynastic Kemet. So dynastic Kemet begins after the religion that was the primary religion of Kemet had already been created. So when you go to Tasseti, for example, there is God Horus. This child that's being held by the Virgin Mother is already recorded in.
I just want to make a statement. He's using the Greek names for Asara, Set, and Aru.
Tasseti. south of Kemet, and it's much older than Kemet. So the religion is in place, astronomy is in place, writing, the hieroglyphics or Medu Neter is in place. All of those things are already in place. So the culture is in place before the political organization of Kemet as a nation.
Okay.
Osiris is the god who was associated with Isis, the husband of Isis, symbolically. You see Osiris here with the shepherd's crook and the flail, and he was then the supreme god who was married to Isis. So that becomes the god who is married to a virgin, and they have an offspring, and so we have the first holy family. And so that's an example of a religious story that is similar to the Christian story, but it's 3,000 years older than the Christian story.
And is there a resurrection element here?
Osiris was resurrected. He was crucified by his brother, cut up into 14 or 28 pieces, depending on the story. His evil brother Set, jealous of him for several things, cut him up, and he was again, he was risen from the dead to rule over the dead. And that was the story of Osiris.
This is
the earliest story of the resurrection.
Before the Christian.
Again, that goes back about 3,000 years before Christ.
Okay. Master key number 2.
Okay, the second concept that we need to keep in mind, Kemetic culture remained intact through the 7th century AD. The culture, that's this cultural line that I showed you on the chart. If we can go back to the chart here.
Okay, let's hold it a minute. Let's let our people get in place.
Okay.
Okay.
So here's the 3,000-year line. It stays the same, the way of life, this religion, this philosophy, up to this point right here. And it's at this point that we get a rather abrupt change in the culture of Kemet. The reason for it is that the conversion of Africans in Kemet to the religion of Islam. This is after the Prophet Muhammad. And then you get at this point a change in belief, but you also get a change in population at this point. You get large numbers of Arabic-speaking people, Arab people with Arabic culture, that come into the Nile Valley and join those that were already there and give to what is now Egypt, rather than Kemet, its essential character, which we see still present in Egypt today.
Okay, let's go on.
Okay, on the third master key, generally in Kemet, if you look at the data, the older things are, the better they are. In other words, the first cultures were more perfect than later cultures. So if I go to this time chart here, and I get back to Dynasty 1, come to Dynasty 3, when they started building pyramids, the earliest pyramids are the best pyramids, and they're still standing.
Okay, let's see if we have an example.
The last pyramid, here's an example of the early pyramid, the Step Pyramid. That's the first pyramid. That pyramid is still standing. It was not the most perfect pyramid. The most perfect pyramid would be the Great Pyramid. And the Great Pyramid is that one in the far part of the slide. And that is the Pyramid of Giza. But we see 2 other pyramids with it. Now, these are some of the best pyramids. These pyramids would be around 2500 BC. After this, there were about another 75 or so pyramids, and they began to deteriorate in quality. So that's one example of older being better.
Well, we have the graphic up there, the pyramid. How tall is that?
That pyramid, the Great Pyramid, is about 43 stories tall.
Built when?
The Great Pyramid was built around 25, or a little longer than 2500 BC.
Okay.
If we look again at older is better, if we look at the text, this is the text of the oldest Bible in the world, written on the walls of the tomb of Unas. And if you read what becomes from this and other tombs, a book called the Book of the Dead, its formal name is the Per Impru, or the Book of Coming Forth from Darkness into Light, then you'll see that, for example, you see no pornography there. You see, in fact, you don't even see pictures there. You see pure text. And if you go back the text was pure, in not only in written form but in symbolic form. It was better looking text. It looked better as it was carved into the walls and colored. Some of those colors are still there.
Okay.
And in addition to looking better, the ideas were less contaminated with superstition and what have you.
Okay.
We see, for example, older is better here again in terms of the temple at Saqqara. This is the funerary temple at Saqqara of King Zoser that was done approximately 2700 BC. And we see here also the antecedents of Greek architecture. If you see the columns here, these columns dating now from 2700 BC compared to the Parthenon on the Acropolis, which would not appear until around 500 BC. So here we have something more than 2,000 years older than that building that we call the Parthenon in Greece, and it's already present in the architecture.
So when we see columns, we're seeing African.
We're seeing African columns. They're copies of African architecture.
That's something.
Okay. The fourth master key is that you always have to remember when looking at any information from Kemet that their orientation
13
was
keys.
up south.
Are you going to be using the map for this?
13
We can
keys.
show you
Okay,
on the map
Let our folks get in
Jeremy.
place. Okay, go ahead.
that that this river starts here and goes this way, which means it flows from south to north. So it's going downhill when we go this way. That means it's going uphill to go this way. The ancient Kemites always looked back this way, up river, as the source of their home, their inspiration, and so forth. For example, for them, the word south and face were the same. The word left and east are the same. The word right and west are the same. So their general orientation was to the south with their back to the North Pole. And that was what they used as their main point of orientation. We must keep that in mind.
Okay.
You get that?
This would be an example of the Nile River, for example, which is very interesting in Kemet. One of the beauties of this river is that they have winds that blow from the north going south, so that if you want to go north, you just float. If you want to go south, you get help from the wind.
Okay.
And so that was helpful because if you floated one way, you wanted to be able to get back.
Okay.
Okay, the fifth principle or master key, fifth concept, organizing concept, is that the origin of the people and the culture, like the orientation, is also up south. So we looked, in order to show this, for a cultural unity between the Kemetic people and the Sudanese people, for example. Now, that great Egyptologist, E. Wallace Budge, used to say that he felt that he understood the Kemetic writing better, and at least the Kemetic religion was understood better by him when he studied the religion of Sudanese people. The further south he went and watched the religion that was being practiced at that time, the better he understood the ancient Kemetic religion. So in other words, you didn't go to Saudi Arabia or to Europe and study those religions to try to understand Kemetic religion, because they were not like the Kemetic religion. The cultural unity was between Kemet and the people up south. The sixth organizing principle is that generally significant leaders are Southern. And I'm going to go to the time chart on this again. Those who founded, just watch this, for example. Those who founded, the king who founded Dynasty 1 was a Southern king, Mina. The kings...
You say Southern. You're talking about.
That means he came from up south. That means he would come from the area today that we call somewhere near Luxor, even some cases as far south as Aswan, sometimes even outside the country. But what I'm saying is that each of the founding dynasty plus the dynasties of the four golden ages, which are the Old Kingdom or the Pyramid Age, the Middle Kingdom or the Literary Age, the New Kingdom or the Temple and Imperial Age, the Late Kingdom or the Revival Age, each of these four golden ages was initiated from the South. In other words, their king, their family, the royal family at that time came from the South. That's a very important fact.
Who were clearly black.
Because they were then black and they are now black, even in 1990. The Luxor population is a black population. And definitely when you get to Aswan, that's a black population. Okay, the Imperial Age was centered at Waset. The Restoration Age was centered at Waset. And Meroe, which is even further south than Waset, it's even out of the country. Meroe is all the way up almost to Sudan or Khartoum.
I like that name, Waset. I wonder what does that mean?
It means the scepter. Why do you like the name Waset?
There's something about it. I don't know what. It means the scepter. Now you got to tell us what that means.
Waset, of course, the day is called Luxor. And before that, the Greeks called it Thebes, but the Africans called it Waset. And Waset meant the scepter, the symbol of authority and rulership and power.
Okay.
The literary age was started at Waset. The priesthood at Waset was the home base of the preachers. You know,
why is that significant?
It's very important because you had this peculiar kind of thing where what Plato was striving for in his Republic, the idea of philosopher king, was a reality in Kemet. That the priests were the ones that disciplined royalty. In other words, the pharaoh, contrary to what many people believe, did not have a free reign. That he had to gain, in effect, the approval of the high priest of the time. And so this high priesthood had as its center base Waset, and from there, subsidiary lodges would be found all over the country, especially from the 11th dynasty onward.
Okay.
Prior to that time, of course, they had several major centers.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna pause it right there for anybody with questions, anybody with statements, and then we'll get back into it.
Okay. All right. Say it again. Go ahead.
The part when he was talking about Waset or Luxor or Thebes. When I be talking about they had those mystery or the mystery centers or they learning centers.
Right.
You had to be initiated and all this type of stuff. This is where they learned. This is where they went to learn. That priesthood is where that knowledge came from. Them the ones that would write the myths and this, that, and other. And if your priesthood was tight and everybody could understand at a level, that's what will make the Amen, or that's what make the Ptah, or that's what will make whichever Ra or whatever. Whatever priesthood rolling and rolling with that deity or that aspect of creation, it's finna jump, you know. So I wanted to bring that up when he was definitely talking about the priest and understanding that Pharaoh and that whole concept about the Pharaoh being divine and whatnot, that come from the priesthood, you know, and that's where the power was. That's when Akhenaten later got mad and tried to do this thing where they keep talking about this. He invented monotheism. He was bucking the priesthood. They had got too powerful. He was trying to break away from it, but the way he was doing it, he was immature. He didn't have the true knowledge himself. Good information that he given. Another thing I want to say is the dude that's interviewing him, Sylvester Middleton, is one of the best interviewers. And if you get any of his shows, he interviewed all the great scientists, the historians, and the way he breaks down and how he asks questions, you will get valid information. And I want to say respect to that brother. He was an outstanding interviewer. Black Power, Black Love.
Right, right. Jamie?
Oh no, man, he covered it, man. We good shit. Hey, yeah. Yeah, I dig that.
Kerry? Good. She good. Jonathan, my man?
Yeah, just one thing being that the parallel they made between ISIS and
which is all set.
With the story of the Immaculate Birth, the virgin birth, being 3,000 years prior to Christ coming, and they the birth of Christianity. You know, I briefly spoke about how, you know, they used to, the power is in the hands of the conqueror. You know, you still, I can't remember what the item was that was supposed to have been stolen by a particular group of people that had our history attached to that item. But, you know, it's in being able to write the history and put your face on it, where, you know, people just subscribe to it like sheep. You know, the lion is the one in control of the book. The lion is the one who's in control of his story, you know, and his story just happens to be ours, you know, told to us in a way that's foreign to us. That's, you know, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's really something to look at.
When you don't know, it's okay. We didn't know, but they left the sources for us. Now, when we can return and see it and we reject it, that's a problem. So again, as he was saying, we wrote in stone. Our oldest stuff is still more significant. So we're going back to real old stuff and showing this is where everybody else get their stories from. Yes. You know, another thing I want to speak to Unc and Jamie. We just was on Friday night, right?
Right.
And I played some clips.
Yeah.
Talking about the actual discoveries and the remains that they found going back, pushing back to 30. And you hear him, he was already talking about it. Even without you understand? He already knew. This was way back then. And he was like, they already had kings and queens 3,500. And that evidence is starting to come up then now that we got videos of the actual evidence when we was looking at the Adama people and we was looking at, you know, we watched that footage just the other day. So It's just, yeah, science is science. The evidence gonna always speak for itself, you know, and that's why it tripped me out that to hear him speaking about that, and we just had watched some of the evidence that even the Europeans are coming out and, you know, being honest about. It was a time where they wouldn't do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I was going to attach a video about the maps and about the Adama people, but that was too lengthy. So we can catch that up on another week.
Yeah, if you pay attention though, if you paid attention, you will see where he talked about the pyramid of Unis, right?
Right.
And when the writing in there where he said that if you wanted to study the Christianity, all you had to do was read the pyramid text of Unis. You feel me? I mean that's just, and then just a heads up, that was around the 5th dynasty, and this is supposed to be the time when Ham was born. I just want to put that out there.
Right. So here's the Book of the Dead, the Per Heru. All right. So he mentioned that. So I just wanted to give reference to that too. So it's getting ready to get deeper. So you guys enjoying this?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Okay. Okay. So let me share again.
Yeah, when you dealing with Unis. Go ahead.
Yes,
Go ahead.
one more thing. Understanding what he said too about when everybody look into our history, it looks like it comes from nowhere. He's trying to say now it's some stuff that they've taken away. They've taken time away from us. To where if you say, well, it just popped up building great buildings, the aliens did it. That's where that misunderstanding comes in, and them trying to give credit to somebody else.
Yep.
So he's definitely covering that.
Right. And later on in this, he's going to also, refer to, the councils when, all this Christianity, aspects of Christianity was voted in. And like Jonathan was saying, those who rule the land, propagate the, what you worship and stuff. So, and that came like way too many years later to be claiming it's real. So let's just get into that without too much discussion.
This is one of our first pharaohs, early pharaohs, and of course, this is the pyramid pharaoh, Zoser, who built the step pyramid and whose funerary complex we looked at before that had those so-called Greek columns. We can see clearly here this is an African man. Okay. If we skip from Zoser to this pharaoh, we have skipped from the Old Kingdom to the Middle Kingdom, and this is the pharaoh who founded the Middle Kingdom, the second golden age, and it was from Waset that this family lived and ruled, and that was Dynasty 11. Mentuhotep II is a very important pharaoh, but several other important pharaohs also lived in this same city of Waset, and they also were critical not only to Kemet, but also to other parts of the world, such as this one. This is Pharaoh Senwosret I, who is known in history, according to Martin Bernal, who wrote the book Black Athena. This is the pharaoh who is the legendary Greek figure. He's a Kemetic figure, but the Greeks referred to him as Kekrops. His name in Kemetic is Keperkare Senwosret I. And he is the one that Bernal credits with the founding of the Greek city-state of Athens. So that there is this external relationship between Kemet and the rest of the world as far back as 2000 BC. This is in the Middle Kingdom. Okay, here we have in that same kingdom a pharaoh who is also known to the Greeks, according to Martin Bernal's work and others.
I don't want to miss this part he just said. He said that the king that he just named founded the Greek, I forgot what he said. Founded the Greek Empire?
Go back. Do it again.
That this family lived and ruled, and that was Dynasty 11. Mentuhotep II is a very important pharaoh, but several other important pharaohs also lived in this same city of Waset, and they also were critical not only to Kemet, but also to other parts of the world, such as this one. This is Pharaoh Senwosret I, who is known in history, according to Martin Bernal, who wrote the book Black Athena. This is the pharaoh who is the legendary Greek figure. He's a Kemetic figure, but the Greeks referred to him as Kekrops. His name in Kemetic is Keperkare Senwosret I. And he is the one that Bernal credits with the founding of the Greek city-state of Athens.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, so that's the Greek version of that king, but an African founded that land.
That's a hell of a thing.
Right? Okay.
So that there is this external relationship between Kemet and the rest of the world as far back as 2000 BC. This is in the Middle Kingdom. Okay, here we have in that same kingdom a pharaoh who is also known to the Greeks, according to Martin Bernal's work and others. His name is Amenemhet III. And Amenemhet III is that legendary character who fought with Agamemnon in the Trojan War. In the Greek-Trojan War, we had Ethiopian troops, and Greeks call Kemetic people and other Africans black people, and the word for that in Greek was Ethiopian. So this is the figure. Here he is again, Amenemhet III. And Amenemhet III is the legendary Memnon of the Greeks. Okay. Nefertari is the queen mother of the third golden age. She was married to Pharaoh Am's, or she's sometimes referred to as Ahmose Nefertari. You can see that she's clearly black, but she's also a part of that Waset family, this up-south family, showing again the southern origin of leadership. And so here you have this key dynasty, the 18th, which is sometimes called the Grand Golden Age, the biggest of all the four golden ages, the age of imperial expansion, the age of architectural expansion, and so forth. So she would be one of the major figures illustrating this point about the up-south nature of the leadership. Okay, here we have Pharaoh Amenhotep III with his wife, Queen T. This is the mother and father of Pharaoh Akhenaten, who was married to Nefertiti. Most of the people who know Kemet, they know about Nefertiti, but they should really know about Nefertiti's in-laws because they were really important people, especially the wife. The wife is Queen T, and Queen T is the woman who literally ruled Kemet along with her husband, co-regent with her husband. There are letters from Asian kings in cuneiform where when they got into some difficulty, this is the woman they asked for help. They didn't write to her husband, they wrote to her, so that you could say that she was a co-regent with her husband and therefore became very important.
This is the mother of?
That's the mother of Pharaoh Akhenaten, and some people also say the mother of King Tut and the mother-in-law of Nefertiti. Again, these are Waset families. These are up-south families. Here's another up-south priestess, Anutawi, who is priestess of ancient Kemet, but again, she's up south. So if you notice that the center of power at this time is in the middle of the country, or in the part of the country least infiltrated by outside influences, less mixed racially, less mixed culturally. And that would be examples of what we've been talking about.
People are so used to seeing white Egyptian.
Right.
One must ask, where do these people come from?
Right. Well, see, those people have been there all the time. They're just not in the books. The books that show pictures of white Egyptians normally show pictures of the Egyptians, not the Kemites. And that means they're showing pictures of people who were ruling or who were in Egypt during the Greek and Roman times and after that. And so it's always important to date the picture and to know whether you're talking about royalty or not. This virtually all creativities are indigenous, and the invasions are destructive. The Greco-Romans were imitating. So if I go back to the chart here, and let's take a look. Golden Age number 1, Golden Age number 2, invasion. This is the first invasion. This was a destructive invasion from Asia. They are not given the credit with building temples, with building pyramids, with building religion. They were very destructive. And then there is a return in Dynasty 18 and 19, which is the third Golden Age. And the Greco-Romans don't actually get to Kemet and begin to impose their name Greece and their culture and their political control until here. You see, the Greeks come in 332 BC, which is after all four Golden Ages, but they didn't destroy. They're the exception to the invasion being destructive. What they did was imitate. Now, the Romans that come in after the Greeks, beginning about 30 years before Christ, they're the ones that began to destroy again. And particularly, they destroyed the educational and religious institutions to the extent that they were able to do that over the course of 200 to 300 years.
Now, at that 332 BC, is that basically when you see the
That,
white?
right. This is when you'll see large numbers of white. Well, you also see it here with the Persians in 525 BC. But then you're talking about large numbers of settlers here with the Greeks, Alexander the Great, and then the Caesars here with the Romans, and you had large numbers of people infiltrating into Alexandria and around Cairo. Generally, they didn't go very far up south, but nevertheless, some did. And it's not until you get the Arabic population that you begin to get that large infusion of foreigners up south. Okay, this is part of the literature during the period of the in fact, this dates all the way back to the beginning of Kemetic times.
But that this was in place.
This would be in place, and it's part of the culture all the way through, and it's an example of what people destroyed. You know, the invaders were destructive rather than creative. They didn't create this religion; it was already in place.
The Egyptian Book of the Dead deals with what?
The Egyptian Book of the Dead is really much like the first 5 books of Moses or the Pentateuch in the Old Testament. It deals with the creation. It deals with some people say they're spells, you know, but you have to really get into the study of Kemetic religion to understand that these things are part of a very deep symbolic studies that you don't just talk about. You have to go through a training process in order to understand them.
Okay.
This is the example of the Immaculate Conception of with the god Horus, god Osiris lying down on his back, and you'll see the goddess Isis, who is hovering above him with his erect penis, and that is the actual Immaculate Conception in stone. And this is at the Temple of Abydos, and that's a story, of course, that we'll pick up in Christianity, and that was already created by Africans long before it appeared in anybody else's religion. Here is an example of the imitation. You know, all of these are examples of imitation. The Book of the Dead was imitated in the religious literature of other people. The creation story was imitated. Here's the imitation with a God giving life to now a Greek pharaoh. This Greek pharaoh this is outside the temple of Horus at Edfu, which is a reconstructed temple under the authority of the Greeks with their money. When they took over, they followed the desires of the priests, and they began to reconstruct. That's imitation. This is after Alexander the Great. This is Alexander the Great here, or at least one of the statues of Alexander the Great. And you can see how different this is.
Who goes into Egypt?
He goes into Egypt and it's in fact welcomed by the Kemetic people of the time as the deliverer from the Persians. They were happy to see him come. And generally speaking, you could say the Greeks were fairly respectful of the Kemetic people. But they were basically imitators of the Kemetic people.
So when the Greeks went in there, the Africans were already out of control.
Yes, they had already lost control to the Persians, and they never regained control again after that.
Okay, master key number 8.
Master key number 8 is that if you want to understand the thinking of Kemet, you must think in terms of symbolic thought and metaphorical thought. If you take things literally, you'll be mistaken. So that if you think that just because you see a god that has a man's body and an animal's head, for example, that this is animal worship, you will be missing the entire point, because there's much more to it than that. And so here we have examples of the use of things like, well, look at Khepra there, for example, the beetle. You know, comes from a study of biology. So they noticed that this beetle, the dung beetle, a particular beetle, would bury its eggs and then would bury them in the sand, and then as the sun came out, it would heat, and then all of a sudden these eggs would break open. And so they associated that with birth and creativity and creation. And so the Khepra then becomes the god who is coming forth. So you show the beetle, but you don't mean beetle, so you're not worshiping a beetle. You're using the beetle as the symbol of the idea of creation. This is another example. Here's a man with a dog's head. You're not worshiping the animal, the dog, but that dog, the jackal, according to Schwaller de Lubitz and others who studied this, is the symbol is used as a symbol associated with the preparation of the dead, in this case, embalming. His name is Anpu, or some people, the Greeks call him Anubis. That dog is the symbol, is used as a symbol because he can dig up dead meat and eat it before it putrefies and is of no value, so that he makes fine distinctions. He can discriminate. He can discriminate between what is life giving and which is life taking. And so they say, well, why not use him as a symbol for judgment, for making fine judgment? So you see him here, but you will also see him at handling the scales of justice, where the heart of the deceased is weighed against the feather of truth. So that is a symbolic thought, not to be taken literally. But most people who try to study Kemetic religion tend to try to take it literally, and they will make a mistake every time.
So I just want to reference that that's the original of the judgment scene, right? Instead of having to go through Jesus to get to God and rhetoric like that.
Aren't Christians sometimes referred to as the sheep and the folks shepherd?
Sheep and the shepherd, right? In Christianity, and you don't expect that people are actually calling people animals,
right?
But they're manifesting sheep-like qualities, And the shepherd is acting in relationship to people the way the shepherd acts in relationship to sheep. Okay, the last. Not the last, but the ninth master key. Science generated religion, philosophy, and general culture. In other words, it's really important in looking at ancient Kemet to know that the basis of the culture was totally scientific. In other words, painful observations, tireless observations over literally thousands of years produced insights into how nature works. And it's nature's pattern that reflects a divine will, according to the Kemites. And so when they expressed religion, what they were trying to do was to capture the essence of what they had understood through revelation from scientific study. And so it's extremely important to realize that it was through the work of science that people became spiritual. We have it almost backwards in Western culture from this particular point of view. In other words, we receive, in many cases, religion without having to do anything for it. We don't have to study anything other than catechism, so to speak. But with the exception of a very few religions, few seem to have an idea that study of the natural world is, in fact, also associated with study of the spiritual world, and that one depends upon the other, or both depend upon each other, if we put it that way. So that's a very important point.
Okay, master key number 10.
Number 10 is that the Kemetic people, I mention this because so often you hear interpretations of Kemetic religion as being a polytheistic religion, and without getting into meaning the belief in many gods as opposed to the belief in one great God. And again, you can believe whatever you want to believe, but just to be historically accurate, the Kemites were always monotheistic, never polytheistic. And because people don't understand master key number 9, symbolic thought, they misinterpret this principle. And they see with all of these different gods, instead of seeing different aspects of one God, they see different gods. And to the ancient Kemites, they were people who tended to think holistically, and there was always a great hidden God who had many powers or manifestations. There was no difference between, for example, in thinking in holistic terms, between science and religion. They were all the same. You couldn't separate science from religion. Between the sacred and the secular, all life was sacred. So there's no secular, we'll behave ourselves on Sunday and let the rest of the week take care of itself. No caste system, no church-state separation, no school, science, and religion separation. The idea of the separation of church and state would have been unthinkable to the Kemites. So that they thought holistically, and at the center of that holism was a spiritual base, because their whole purpose of the society was to seek the divine. Okay, another master key or principle is to be aware of chronological order, especially the golden ages, and compare the golden ages to the period. Let me go to this chart here, because we've talked about this before.
Okay.
If we look at this is chronological order: 3000, 2000, 1000, birth of Christ, 1000 after Christ, and 2000 after Christ. Well, if we look at the golden ages of Kemet, first golden age, and compare it to the period, we look at the pictures of the pharaohs who were here, and we compare it to the absence of data here. For example, there's very little data about this intermediate period. Although it wasn't a foreign invasion, it was an internal upheaval. This is a period of disorder. So you have very little to point to. You don't have great pyramids of this time, for example, great temples, the 7th through the 10th dynasty. But when you go to the 11th and 12th dynasty, suddenly you have this explosion of literature and culture again. Then you get this invasion, and that's where you don't have any. Try to go to a museum and get something from the 13th, 14th, or 15th dynasty. You can't find it. Then ask yourself, in the dynasties where you have the data, who were the pharaohs and the queens? That's what I've been showing you. Same thing here. Suddenly the 18th and 19th dynasty are the grand dynasties. Ramesses II, Nefertiti, Tutmosis, all of those. Look at who's ruling. And then here's the period. This is the second intermediate period of an invasion. This is another period, the period being the gap between the golden ages. And you could also call this a period too, a kind of a late period, which is after the 25th dynasty, which was a native Black African-led dynasty. And this is a period, and then you know that if you look for the people here, you'll see Alexander, you'll see Persians, and you'll see so-and-so. But the high-tech, high-developed periods are always the native periods. And so it's very important to keep the chronological order. Otherwise, you will have people who will confuse what was happening in Greece with what was happening during the Pyramid Age. And you'll have people saying that Africans got help building the pyramid. And there was nobody, no major group of people, no large group of people, even in Africa at the time of the pyramid, other than African people. That's why you have to have the chronological order straight.
This is the remainder of number.
Okay, and the rest of that, note that the Greco-Roman period comes at the end of Kemet. Cultural Kemet is still in operation. In other words, during the time of the Greeks, the Kemetic people were still operating their culture. The Greeks didn't change that.
I'm saying that's really important.
Although the Greek culture changed. Greek culture changed because they came to Africa. And copied. It is still in operation. In other words, the rest of that, note that the Greco-Roman period comes at the end of Kemet. Cultural Kemet is still in operation. In other words, during the time of the Greeks, the Kemetic people were still operating their culture. The Greeks didn't change that. Although the Greek culture changed. Greek culture changed because they came to Africa and copied African people. Also note that this period, being the most recent, is the source of most of the material in museums. So this will confuse you. If you go to museums, you'll see many busts of Greek people dressed up like Africans, Roman people dressed up like Africans. They're mummifying their bodies. They're burying their bodies in these caskets that are copied on the style of the Greeks. They have their pictures inscribed on the wall. And so there's so much of this material from 300 BC and so little of the material that survives from 2700 BC that unless you're careful, you would think that the Greek period was the typical period. It is not the typical period, it's the exceptional period.
Okay. Let's go on.
Right. So this then sums it up as the dynastic chart. And we can see where the Greeks and Romans fall in this. And you can see that they fall clearly toward literally after all the developmental periods are over. There is literally no Kemetic cultural development after the 25th dynasty. After that, it's all imitation or destruction.
Master key number 12.
Master key number 12 is that in order to get a real picture of who the people were, you need to get as many pictures of a king, queen as possible. More than one picture. Like with Nefertiti, we only usually see one picture. We see two pictures of her, you will see that the one picture has to be in error. So that you always get as many pictures as possible so that you can sit them side by side, and that will give you an answer to the question of whether these were black or white people. So if you look here, this would be a picture of Amenhotep the second, the grandfather of King Tutankhamun. The next slide will show Amenhotep the third, the father of Akhenaten and King Tut. And so if you show this as a family sequence, then you begin to get a sense of what the racial makeup is. This would be Amenhotep III and his wife T, which we showed before. The next would be their son, Akhenaten. So you can see if we put them together now, then the son looks like the parents. If you see this picture of Akhenaten by himself, many people can't explain him except as a departure from the norm, as they've said. So if we look at the next slide, we'll see
because they're looking at pictures that are outside the family.
Right, because they're looking at pictures outside the family. So
Yeah.
they say he looks abnormal for a white person. And that's true, but he wasn't a white person.
Right. Master key number 13.
Okay, the last master key is that Egyptology, and notice that I refer to myself as a chematologist. I'm a student of ancient Kemet. Egyptology takes the name of that the Greeks used, Egypt, for the name of the academic discipline. So that must mean they're studying the period after the natives, apart from the natives. They really don't think that they are, but I'm very insistent on this terminology. Egyptology, which comes largely after Napoleon, is mainly the product of European scholars that emerged during the slavery and colonization period. That point cannot be overemphasized. The meaning of that. For example, if Africans are precluded from doing the research, from digging up, evaluating, publishing, disseminating information, and if the people who have ulterior motives, designs on the African continent, are the ones who are writing the history of the African continent, doing the research on the African continent, you have bias almost on its face. But we don't even have to look at bias on its face. We can look at Martin Bernal's excellent work in Black Athena, and we can look at, in particular, at the chapter that he does on the racism and the science of Egyptology to show that the Egyptology work was influenced by the fact that these nations that were doing Egyptology were stealing bodies and stealing lands from African people. So we can never forget that the academic discipline is colored by its time.
Okay.
Now, there are 11 ways I've been saying, I've been emphasizing, and that's part of the purpose of this whole program, is to reclaim for Africa and for African people the Kemetic civilization. And there are 11 ways that one of our great scholars has shown that you can answer the question that people have, how do we know, that these were really native Black African people? So I call this 11 categories of converging evidence showing that ancient Kemet was native Black African. This is very important because you can't just say that they were Black. You have to know what is the evidence for it. And so that's our purpose now.
So I'm going to leave that part for Sankofa 180 degrees for people that are interested to be able to go and experience that. So we had the lineage of Diop, John Henrik Clark, and Dr. Asa G Hilliard. And we got Dr. Asa G Hilliard because, to my understanding, was just brought to my attention that they were both underneath him. So, or at least acquainted with him. So let me stop sharing. And so I want to say this: be considerate of your of the time that you're going to share, the thoughts, and the content that you're going to use. And we can be considerate of each other and share some, and then we can loop back around and share again. And then after the second round of shares, if we go there, then I'm going to get off and take Carrie out to do something for her birthday. The floor is open.
Good. Hey, well, I wanted to add on to a little bit, man. He was talking about Sin Westeret the first.
Right.
When he was talking about it was in the Middle Kingdom, sorry. Was that about the 12th dynasty? And you know that pharaoh was the one that sacked Russia. That's where you get black Georgia from, over there in Russia, man. That's just a little fun fact.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really good. Last night I was, finishing up on this preparation. I watched a lot of videos, man, and did a whole lot of reading and looking at sources and stuff. But I was able to break out the scroll and share it with Carrie, and man, it felt really good. It felt really good to have the knowledge to share about our history, and the dictates of that video with Dr. Asa Hilliard and Diop and Bango. Just remind me that why wouldn't I want to go back to the original instead of propagating something that was, which I don't think that Dr. Asa Hilliard hit on that in this video, but in his one I put on Sankofa 180 degrees, I think he did hit the councils and the creation of what is so pronounced today as the authenticity of the resurrection, the way to get to, the afterlife and all these kind of things. So here you got all the history, man, and the great references to fall back on and to do some research on. So it was really good to know this knowledge, man, and then be able to look at a piece of material, the scroll, and show that only this much of it dictates Christ's birth and what we serve today. There's 13 other feet of this, of history, that would most people would decide to, I don't want to deal with that. This is that scroll I'm talking about. All right, 14 feet, 13, one foot of it, if I'm right. Is Eric still on?
No, he had off.
If I'm right, just 1 foot of it, dictates, what we propagate so highly today, as a whole. Thank God I don't know more. So next.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you hit it on the head though, man. It's like, I understand belief. I do, man. I understand it. But
well, there ain't no proof.
That's not enough for me.
They don't have to prove. They don't have to.
Saying they don't have to have it. They just got to believe. That's fine. I don't want to get in the way of that. But just saying, like, when you get to real reality, when we come to reality, it seems like you want to, I prefer to study the original rather than a copy of a copy.
And then knowing thyself, man, Gerald has that book, Know Thyself, man, and we studied a lot out of that, and we do that anyways. That's what Sankofa is all about, going back and fetching, what has been lost or taken or left, right? And so to know thyself, man, and this is the content that fulfills what we are made of, instead of denying the thoughts of being what's that word? Indoctrinated thoughts, indoctrinated behaviors, indoctrinated beliefs, all these kind of things, man. We're able to check them, and we talked earlier before the show started about, the 42 laws of Ma'at, or me and Jamie was talking about that before we even got on, living Ma'ats, so go ahead. I'm good. Next.
I like hearing his layout, because what it does for me, the more I read the latter stories, the more I realize how much work and effort is put into one, making a people as close to and humanly God as possible, while at the same time keeping anybody else from seeing themselves as having the potential to be what those figures were and represent from those, the pre-dynastic and the dynastic eras, where the figureheads, as I understand it, the story of Isis, Osiris, and Set started with real people. Am I wrong to say that? It started with real people, and their story was deified, depending on what time and era, it was laid out. And it's kind of like if you have a Bible in your house that ain't King James, and you go to where Christ tells people how to be what he is, and the scripture that actually describes it, he says, "Howbeit, this power does not go out except by prayer and fasting." If either of you has a Bible in your home that's not King James, that scripture is the 21st verse of the 17th chapter of Matthew. And it's not in the Bibles. They took that part out because they would rather have you view them as God, have you view their, the separation. And I go scripture. I'm a pastor's kid. This just my outlook on it,
I'm a pastor's kid too, man. And
yeah, it's a matter of orientation. In the Old Testament, we're taught so much about how God in one moment is a man, the next minute he's an angel, the next minute he the Lord, he sits, he eats, he spends the night, the homosexuals see him as handsome, this kind of thing. The interchangeability for this particular nation of people, their orientation is that they are either descendants or, connected well enough to be, if they chose the right lane. Well, in the New Testament, here comes this guy who went to the Egyptian mystery school and studied in various places under secret and privileged educational systems that don't nobody talk about.
Who is this guy you're talking about?
The guy I'm talking about is Jesus Christ, bro.
Okay.
From the age of 12 to 30, he was a student.
Yeah, and just one more thing real quick, and I just want you to finish. I just want to say this. Even the King James did the same thing that the rest of the versions did, meaning took shit out, made it their own for the same purposes that you described the other versions of the Bible for being. Go ahead and finish.
And I'm talking about a particular scripture but the point I'm making is that he wasn't killed because he was immaculately conceived, or that's the story, this, that, and the other. He was killed for giving. They say the rich and powerful don't give the weak and poor the knowledge to become rich and powerful. And anytime a man gives to our people a light or a notion that they had a capacity to be what anybody else has been, having chosen the right lanes in life, he's worthy of death. They killed Jesus not for being a son of God. They made him that, and being able to close the door, they ain't got to worry about it. If I can dictate to you the diameter of your knowledge, I can control the circumference of your actions. If I can get you to see yourself as a nigga, I ain't got to worry about you exercising God qualities, kind of thing. So when I see in the layout how men were viewed, that went through the channels of development to become accepted in these higher circles and this, that, and the other. It's the same story as what I see other accomplished nations today do for their history. To me, being able to see that the majority of their stories are coming from our own, the brother said earlier that knowing, like we know now, what do you do with that information? What do you do? It's one thing to know it, but you know what I'm saying? Understanding is a bit beyond knowledge. You know what I mean? Like, what can I do to be a part of a process that guarantee 100 years from now, we'll be looking at, the empowerment that comes from knowing. You understand what I'm asking? I'm asking, I mean, we having the conversations now, and you being exposed to a wisdom that's not common. This is secular. This is an ordaining by choosing to open your eyes to the possibility of God in yourself, kind of thing. That's how I see what's happening here. That's how I see the information that's coming to me. And so I don't know, I just want to put that question out there. What more can I do? Whether in this conversation or without it, to be a contributing factor, to does anybody understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, that's a real good take of how you taking it. I think. Yeah. I think it is. I think it's a real good.
So let's leave some room for some answers for your question. And
let me put that.
Yeah. Good job, Jonathan. Thank you.
Thank you.
The answer is to study to know thyself. That's what they were doing. Even the scholar who was presenting that to us, he had to be studying. And when he knew what nobody else didn't know, he shared it. He presented it. He put himself in a way where he internalized it in a way to go on a show with another brother who would ask him questions, and he could be articulate enough to inspire other people to that when they heard it, to let them also say, well, shit, I don't know that. I didn't know that. And what can I do with this information? And that's what we're doing right now in Sankofa. We're sharing that information.
Come on.
That's our duty, is to internalize it and make sure we present it to other people who don't know. That's what he was doing. And it's never to be arrogant. It's never to be arrogant with it and to tell him, y'all don't know this. And no, he's very humble. He's very humble in telling us what we don't know.
Come on.
And then telling us how we should deal with that, because others are going to come to it that don't know. They're going to go to the oldest parts and think it's something. And we got to tell them, to the earlier part, or the oldest parts. And we got to tell them, no, you got to go back to the earlier parts. You got to go back deep down south. That's where it starts. That's where the better records are found. It might sound crazy that we got better records that are older, but that's how it is. And until you understand that what you're looking at, you can be fooled. You can be tricked. So he gave us those gems. You know what I'm saying? As we doing now, we learning about it, and we have to humble ourselves and say, okay, I didn't know this. Who else? And we reserving a copy right now for somebody else to listen to this, to watch this presentation, to watch his videos. We know to do that. We're not taking it all up on us. We know to share that information. The biggest thing is what he was bringing about is, our people don't know about this. We caught up into so many other different things, and we so bombarded by it and living out those stereotypes that they tell us. But if we ever to go back to the source, all that the beliefs that we got more insight. As this he was talking about Christianity or Judaism. You go back to the source, you have more insight to it. You were talking about Jesus went to Egypt. That story starts with Moses being in Egypt.
Come on.
And you'll hear about Moses being initiated, and he had all. They talking about mystery schools. Whether we take that to be historically, you know, about the ancient people of Kemet had that wisdom. We just, because we accept the Bible and we accept that we are the children of the Israelites and that the Egyptians were somebody negative in the Bible, we don't deal with them. That's why. If the Egyptians were, the Pharaoh was bad and stuff to the, you know, the ancient, the biggest enemy to the people of Israel and God's chosen, then we don't want to have nothing to do with the Egyptians. And so that's why we don't look to it. You know, that's why when you look to it and you try to tell people, no, this is why our history at. And if they come from those Abrahamic faiths, they're going to be, you know, and tell them, okay, it's the source. You know, you accept it or reject it at this point. Another thing, and this is my last point. You talked about Asa and Aset, or you're saying those stories were made, could possibly be made historical. One thing in Kemet, they will separate their historical figures. They'll tell you about Norma, and he's the first one that united. They got records for Norma, and you find out there are kings and queens that was older than Norma. Got their graves and whatnot. But they do not have graves for Asa and Aset and Tahuti, and we start dealing with that mythological type of thing, which is a highly spiritual level. They want you to know if you got initiated, when they talking about Asa or Aset or any of them, they talking about you. That mystery is explained. What is they talking about in you? Even if you would go to the higher aspects of Christianity, you'll hear us talking about the Christ is you. Not somebody, don't worry about anybody that did something historical. You have to bear the cross. You got to go through that. You know, and I'll end on that. Black Power.
My man.
Yeah, so I wanted to comment on his question too. About the video and the knowledge that we already know is that, you know, they right off the people that we study from right off the top, man, even back in the day, they knew that these were not real stories, real events that happened, the principles like Gerald was just talking about. When in the Bible, they talk about it being a real story, a real people, real events. And it's not, they have no proof of that. They just have belief systems, right? So when you was presenting that question, Jonathan, I thought, to know thyself, am I moving in the spirit or the interest of my father, who was also a preacher at Trinity AME and a few other churches? My grandmother, my big mama, was the first lady for many of the churches. My parents, my mother was deeply involved. Am I moving in the respect of that, right? Which they didn't know. They didn't have the information, the data that we have at our disposal today. A girl asked me, you know, what would your mama think of you now with that ideology and putting down the Bible? I said, my mother would be proud that I broke the code.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so when we're talking about knowledge of self, am I moving in that spirit of obligation and identity, right? Identity at that moment in time. Am I trying to keep the interest in my stance? And this is personal, my own personal so-called testimony, right? Am I moving in that spirit there? And my identity. Okay, I had a lot of knowledge of the Bible, right? And I stood on that. That was wholly me, right? Or am I moving in actually knowing myself, right? Which is totally different. Makes the biggest difference in my life today because I go back to the source, right? So that's my response to, you know, what can I do to carry this on?
Let me jump you. All right.
Yeah.
All right. When you saying knows ourselves, right? Knows
Right.
ourselves starts with information.
Correct.
As you were saying, and with our basic thing, especially from Sankofa, you can get information, you can get misinformation. Right? When you get misinformation, you're being miseducated. That's not knowledge of self. That's somebody else. That's what they call alien or foreign information. That biblical thing, that them Abrahamic faith is alien and foreign information. We got that. We grew up on that. Y'all with me?
Right.
Soon as you got access to the source, same as me. Once I got access to the source and got some of that information dealing with Kemet, I knew that was knowledge of self right there. Shit, right? This about me. Each of us know that. It's different from learning some scriptures about Abraham and Moses and Isaac and all that shit. It's totally different. You know? So once you get to the source and you know, this is information which is educational to me. You know, getting that mystery system up. Hey, the mystery is about you. When they're dealing with those deities and the God, you ought to become God-like. You ought to become nature-like.
Come on.
Even that understanding of the concept that you being divine and one with the Creator, that comes from our ancestors. That's what something that we would never deny. That's knowledge of self. Once you have knowledge and that understanding, I'm one with the Creator, I'm divine, just as everything comes from the Creator, then nobody can tell me I'm born in sin. That's misinformation to me. I reject that at that point. You know, how am I to live? When they keep bringing up, they just keep bringing up that I saw. They telling you at the end, without them telling you at the end, they talking about it's a judgment scene that I saw deals with. The judgment, which everybody feels that at the end of time, they're going to get judged by God. That concept comes from our ancient people of Kemet, which they got it written in Medunetta in stone. When they talk about Eunice and those dudes in them pyramid texts, and they saying these different things, they talking like they Jesus.
Come on.
I am the Creator of one. I'm the this and I'm the that. Ain't no Jesus around here. That's why they say in 3,000 years before Jesus, we was already having these concepts about we the divine one. I'm connected to you, Creator. Don't deny me. I ain't denied you type of stuff. That's old. Declaring that we were divine, declaring that we were the one. So that's what I'm saying. It's just once we go back to the source and know what we're looking at, we don't really have to argue no more. Those other people can have their stories. That's understanding that's their stories. That's their culture. It has nothing to do with us and our culture. If we connect back to our original culture, we'll see what things have been added in. Things have been, as y'all say, the lion is telling his side of it, you know, his story. We want to go back to our story, which is the original story, you know, and that's knowledge of self. And when you get knowledge, it ain't fronting no more. You can't front with knowledge. Everybody know when you attained it. Everybody know that you got something because you speak it and you apply it. You show wisdom. You know, it ain't just me going and church every goddamn day and coming out, you know, and I'm just trying to walk on the church, but, you know, going to church every goddamn Sunday and doing stupid shit. You know, and I'm talking about a difference between being sincere. We talking about not know thyself, not being ignorant, not being just nice and oh, I'm just nice and no, that bliss stuff. No, you stand on truth. You speak the truth. You share the truth. And that'd be it, man. I'm getting a little hyped. Shit.
Man,
Right,
beautiful.
right.
Just real quick, has anyone else read that inscribed at the entranceway to many of the various classes at the Egyptian mystery schools? They had the words inscribed, "Know thyself" at the entranceway. Is there anybody else read that? Know thyself at the entranceway. Has anybody else in your reading come across that information?
I don't know about that book, but I know Gerald has a book, Know Thyself.
Yeah.
So I don't know specifically what you're claiming.
Yes. They would have that on time. I'm a Oswald Quasi got certain ones that they would show that. But yeah, as you entered the mystery schools, when we talk about these mystery schools, Wasset was one. They had them in different places. That would be over the top of it. Man and woman, know thyself.
Okay. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. You'll hear later that the Greeks, because the Greeks came in after, and then they put that. You will see that on some of their temple things in Greek, but it was first originated, as y'all hear them saying, it was something that comes from Kemet.
Thank you. I just wanted to get some clarity on that. Yeah, it is, it goes from being the lion, knowing thyself, to being a sheep. I heard it said, and I'll be quiet with this, that, and it is, what I'm seeing and what I've received today from this class has been, to know thyself is to be a lion. As men, you have to be carnivorous to deal with the enemy and all that's being presented to us. But I've heard it said that a lion pup doesn't know the roar until it hears one. And seeing and hearing about my history and the way that I do, I really, I'm not far removed from the time where I really had these views that white people were God, that the Jews were God's chosen, and this, that, and the other. And I mean, like, really, this was my mindset. This is what I was indoctrinated to believe, what I was being taught. And so to learn my history, that's the exact opposite of that the playing field is fair for me, and to hear it explained in the way, Mr. Hilliard explained it. It's just, there was one last question I had about what was the name of the people prior to the first dynasty? He gave a name, Tasari, I didn't write it down. Did anybody else catch that? The name of that nation that was prior to the first dynasty?
Taseti?
Taseti.
Daseti?
Taseti.
Taseti. Do you know how to spell that?
TASCTI.
Okay, I got it. Man, this has been a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, we got some. Gerald just put up some other people too. What was it? What was it, Gerald? The A1?
The Adamia?
Yeah, the Adamia ones, and then some other ones too, man. So
Adamia, people from Nabataplaza.
Yeah. The Badari people. The Badari people.
And I think the Natarfans or something like that.
They were just as accomplished as because he said that they had the story of ISIS and
do you know
the first dynasty
name for ISIS?
You know what?
Do you know so when they say ISIS, they're really talking about Assad.
Oh, so who was married in?
The Greek name is Isis.
Isis and Set are the same?
All set.
All Set.
Correct.
Okay, so Mary and Jesus, so when he showed the picture of the virgin and the baby, what are their names?
That's Aset, Haru, and Asar. Asar the father, Aset the mother, Haru the son.
Okay, well, that's what I mean to say.
Correct.
Asar, that the Tasari people had the concept,
The Taseti people.
the Taseti. Man, let me write this down because I don't want to mess that up.
There you go. There you go. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Taseti. Okay. Yeah, it's just funny how, the world want to see you ignorant to the reality of the fact that they living off your lifeblood, that your origins are their foundation where they're not yours as a nation. I just think it's a hell of a thing to look at, man.
And it's even deeper, Jonathan, when I personalize it to myself. It's an offset when I group the whole world. But when I look at myself and say, I'm following that, I'm doing that, whether you are or not, that's up to you to decide. But when I was doing it, I said, oh, skirt, real quick. I was like, man, really, Jamie?
Yeah.
And that's why, Jonathan, that's why we meet on Fridays at 7 p.m. your time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just open, it isn't a recording. And we chop it up deep. Gerald just gave reference to what we talked about, and we referenced it a bit too, what we talked about Friday. And then we get together Sundays at this time, and then, we can chop it up during the week, everybody can get on, whatever's good. But them 2 set days, man, is so we can have this elation. I call it elation, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Instead of living a life of fabricated feelings and thoughts and shit like that. So,
my man, beautiful thing here.
Yeah. Jamie.
Yeah. Hey, listen. So also, besides Taseti, you also have Tamari. Okay. So we got a Tamari too.
I tell you, Jonathan, keep that pen and paper handy.
So we got a Taseti, and we also have a Tamari.
And these are civilized nations.
And both of these are before Kemet.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah.
All this is what later's gonna change, but this is them trying to figure out the pre-dynastic period. They didn't want to give credit to the pre-dynastic period, or they were just trying to act like they was ignorant or something. You understand? Yeah. They try to act as if the pre-dynastic period was an ignorant period, and then when the dynastic period, some kind of way, these just smart people just came around and was doing things. The evidence don't show that. The evidence show no. It's stuff prior to that. Had dynasties and kings 300 years prior to the dynastic period that y'all talking about.
With writing.
We already had developed a calendar before y'all say the calendar is 4,000 years old.
That's right. With writing. That's the code thing.
Right.
With writing.
But the mythology is old. And then it's almost like the civilization is built on the mythology. And that mythology is built on a divine kingship. And through that mythology, you become divine. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's just more taken of being ignorant. When you don't know, you can't. There's no blame. They were good at what they did. They suppressed our African spirituality and history, and they used theirs and had their images, but they had to infuse some of our truths in it. So we turn to the source. We go, goddamn, I see where y'all got that from. oh, this resurrection stuff and all that comes from us. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how you had us. You had us because you did have some truth in it. But, you know, we always like some of the shit don't make sense. Once you go to the source, you see why it don't make sense. At that point, it's accepted or rejected. You know, that's at some point, you're going to get shown the truth. But do you accept it or reject it? Are you going to accept the truth and it's going to set you free? Or you going to still believe the lie? You know? For some, they looking for it. I was, you know, God damn it, I knew it was something wrong. For others, they look at it and it's, ooh, I don't know which one to believe now. Or why should I believe this now? You know, it's still doubt. But, you know, my point is, after you've been presented, it's not I can't make you. I'm not gonna keep arguing back and forth with you no more about it. It's on you, you know. Don't force it on your family. Don't do that. Don't force it on your family. You know, you can destroy a family by trying to make them go back into it. I went through that experience. So handle yourself in a proper manner, and people come to you if they feel that you know. Sometimes they won't do it in public, but they'll catch you in private. And hey, man, what's that you was talking about? You'll be able to, you know, you'll be able to share. You know, black power, black love.
Hey, let me tell you this though. Let me tell you this. The writers of the Bible, they have to mix some truth with the falsehood, man. I'm gonna tell you, and this is why they had to put Jesus in Egypt for whatever, however long. They had to put him in Egypt, man. And just like they had, you know, they had the writers had to put him in Egypt, man, because they know that Egypt was a real place and real things was happening in Egypt. It was really going down. They really had a history. They really had you know, and it was recorded. So they had to put Jesus studying in Egypt. Now, why is it that we don't see writings of Jesus studying in Egypt?
Right.
Why we can't find that nowhere else other than but the Bible? You see what I'm saying? We can only find that those claims in that Bible, man. You know, just like, you know, just like when they messed the story up about Moses, you know, coming up with the Ten Commandments, going up on the mountain and coming down with the Ten Commandments. If you was raised as an Egyptian, you was mighty in the words and deeds, right? So you was in the Egyptian priesthood. You was in the Kemetic priesthood, King. You was getting the same education as all the other Pharaoh's kids, right? So how is it that you come with the 10 Commandments when we already had the 42 laws of Ma'at, which covers the 10 Commandments?
And he broke a few of them commandments right when before he even got down the damn mountain. Busted the bull, killed 3,000 people.
I'm just saying but so when they mess the story up like that, no one ever questions that. Like so he come up with these 10 Commandments, but we had 42 laws of Ma'at thousands of years before he done came up with the 10 Commandments. And we got the 42 laws of Ma'at. We cover the 10 Commandments. Like so when they mess the stories up, no one wants to question them. No one wants to question them. Half of them don't even know the inside of the story. You know what I'm saying? That if he studied in Egypt, then how could he come up with his own? How did he come up with the 10 Commandments? Well, how did he come up with it? What was he writing in? What was he speaking? Right? If he was raised for his first 40 years in Egypt, what was he speaking? What was he writing? That's all he knew. So yeah, man. I mean, we just got to think about these things, man. When these stories come around, you know what I'm saying? We just really got to think about them, man.
Yeah, and I just wanted to interject. I believe that the first copy of the King James was published in the 1500s. around that area, AD. And they lack all this information prior to it. So, and then Jonathan, you know, what I learned was to come back and, you know, on these sessions, man, and share my experience of the knowledge and interacting with other people, because I needed to get adjusted. You know, like you were saying earlier about, you know, the relationship. I need to learn how to handle this stuff, and I needed to adjust it, because we got new information that carries that requires a certain attitude, right? A certain respect for the information and our people, and it'll get heated real quick, man. So, you know, I'll just give you that gem, man.
Yeah, can you give it back to me real quick, bro? I'm sorry, I was in the middle of something. I didn't hear all of it. What was
Yeah,
the
so
first?
what I'm saying is, one of the things that I did was that I do still as I return to these sessions, you know, Fridays, Saturdays, and because acquiring this knowledge and being able to share it with other people in the respect that Gerald was talking about, takes some adjusting. It took me some adjusting. You know, as a man, I should be able to handle it this way. But this is new information with a whole brand new requirements of an attitude and delivery, and coming out of the indoctrinated being at that present time, and continuing on. I need adjusting.
Absolutely. You know, when you look at history, anytime some information foreign to what people have established power in is brought to a people, you know, it's worthy of death, man. You know, and our family, our people, you know, my father, your father, you know, they praying to the Jews. They praying, you know, Jesus was a Jew that was killed by the Jews, who more antichrist than the people that killed him, got us looking for somebody. Anyway, the point I'm making is that what I've learned is that there's an esoteric group of people who are worthy, even worthy of the pearls to be given in this way. Not everybody, you know, you mess around, get your feelings hurt trying to share a newfound understanding. You know, these institutions are deeply rooted in our people. You know, I still fight some of the concepts given. When I read scripture, I don't see what my father saw. I don't see when I read the Quran, I don't see just what you know, the average person reading that AI by AI is learning. I see something a little different. It's a spirit in me that goes back to the very roots of history, you know, and the more I recognize it in the things I read, it in the people I encounter, not looking at the titles or the religion or the politics of things, but seeing the essence. The more I get to that, the more I realize that, like, you know, it's like a fasting. It's like a fasting, man. You know, I'm in a season in my life right now that what I'm learning, I'm attempting to digest. I'm you know, in a way where it else. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's I want to be it. I want to, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like that breath I just took. I won't think about it. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, and it's good to have this venue in that, you know, you rub and, you know, steel sharpens steel. I learned a lot today, man. I learned a lot today.
So Jonathan, the thing that it really stands out for me is I can have this knowledge, but if I'm not with the people that's doing it, if I don't return to the source, right? This is the source for today, right? Fridays, Sundays. This is the source for today. If I don't return to that, man, then I'm gonna be going on I mean, we're gonna be still lost in the wilderness, man. So that's just what I've done, and I deep dive into a lot of the stuff, and I call these boys, man, and I share my stuff with them, and I take more time to learn. So now I know a little, and so the statement you made, before, I'm gonna reiterate what I said on top of it. Then I better know some shit, unless I need to stop talking.
Well, man. Yeah, I learned that, yeah, we make fights for ourselves, and trying to impose our will and our understanding, will attached to our understanding. You want people, and it's a beautiful thing when you start to see you want to share it, but like I said, it's esoteric. I mean, it's understood by and for a select few right now.
Yeah. But you got a guap of it today. You got a nice little piece today, man, and then your reception is a whole lot different than the prior engagements as well. So, that's appealing to me. That I love you, brother.
Yeah,
so
love you too, man.
yeah, ain't no
100%.
question. Ain't no question. Ain't no
Love you
question.
too, man.
Jamie, anybody else want to share on this?
Hey, no, man, this was beautiful, man. I'm cool. Shit, Jonathan, yeah, man. Love having you, brother. You know what I'm saying. Hope that that you come back next week, man. If you got the time.
Yeah, I will. I will.
Like you said, we here from 7 and 8, Fridays at 7 and Sundays at 2 p.m. Yeah, man, and we just do a little build, man, some building, man, and trying to wake our people up, man, and like like the brother said, man, and we just trying to get people to fall in line with getting to know this, know thyself, man. uh you know I don't have a problem with belief, man. I don't have an issue with brothers and sisters that's dealing with the Bible. I'm just saying, if you ever want to come to reality, then that's what we, what I'm saying, and we crush those misconceptions that's out here about Kemetic thought. The multiple gods and all this other weird stuff that people think that's going on with Kemetic thought. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, we just try to get rid of a lot of the misconceptions, man, about how Kemetic thought is evil, and uh, 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 witchcraft and voodoo and all this, spells and book of spells, like the brother spoke on, as far as these a lot of these texts. You know what I'm saying? You got spell, they call them spells, but that's just another misconception, brother. So I'm just saying, man, like Fridays, man, we do a lot of we do a lot of building in, man. It's open mic. Come and talk about what you want to talk about. You know what I'm saying? You had some really good questions, King. I appreciate them. There was real good questions.
Yeah.
Like the brother said, they were real distinct when it came to the natural rules and the pharaohs. Now you had pharaohs that would take on the names of a lot of natural rules,
Okay.
right? But
gods, like,
right, those were the natural rules. Those just the forces of nature, man.
Okay.
Air, water, fire, everything. You know what I'm saying? All natural
elements. Yeah.
elements. Yeah, everything natural is what you're gonna see with them. All adding up to the one. Right. So, so yeah, just getting rid of the misconceptions, King, and and showing the similarities and seeing where Christianity has borrowed and stolen and taken out of our text and not giving us credit or our people credit for it. You feel me? So a lot of the stories are taken from us. You know what I mean? And retold, and then people think that it's literal. No, brother. Nah, man. These people never walked the earth. Just like Asar, Aset, and Haru never walked the earth. Mythological characters, all of them. You feel what I'm saying?
Okay.
You know what I mean? None of them ever existed, brother. Right? We talking about principles. And that's how you get, the meat, the message out of the thought, that Kemetic thought. You feel me? And that's, you know what I'm saying? And so that's what we do, man. We spar, we sit around and we spar with truth and facts.
But you're not far off, Brother Jonathan.
Thank you.
You have to be initiated.
That's right.
To learn about what Jamie just said. You could walk around in Kemet and believe in Asar was real and all that. You could believe that until you got initiated. That's that esoteric information that you were talking about.
Come on.
So we are students of that type of knowledge and information. Just like you said, if you told us Asar was real, we're going to say, show me the body. If they can't show me no body, don't keep telling me about no Asar was real.
That's right.
Yeah.
Forensic science.
It's gotta be the same way. We got to use the scientific approach with everything. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And again, once we peel the onion back, we do still find a source that's talking about us. Those Neteru are divine principles that when you study more and you really get into knowledge of self, you always say, what that shit got to do with me? What do Asar got to do with me? That's when the learning starts. What do Aset got to do with me? That's when the learning starts. When he was talking about Anpu and the discerning qualities, to know whether, the judgment. That's a divine aspect of your human personality. The Haru faculty, raising that up.
Everyday life.
Yeah, how do it apply to us? That's what we try. That's what knowledge of self is. Not knowledge of, how is knowledge of Asar knowledge of self to me? If it's just about somebody who's supposed to be a mythological king that got cut up 14 pieces, what the shit that got to do with me? It don't have nothing. That's why our ancient people were way deeper than that. They would laugh at you if you only thought it was that. You would have to start speaking on now what that meant. And putting the pieces back together. Yeah, we've been, you got a story about how dealing with our whole history. We've been cut up, split up into thinking we this, thinking we that. We got to put that all back together. I think I'm the Israelites. No, we ain't the Black Israelites. We the Christians. I think I'm the Black Christians. Well, who they're saying? No, we the Moors. We Islams. We the Black Moors. We all these different things, and all of them got some basic kernels of truth in them. Take it back to the source. Put all the 14 pieces back together, and you put us all back together, you're going to end up right in Kemet, right in Africa. Now, again, if we got something against Africa and we got something against who we are, that's miseducation too. When you learn properly about who we are, and again, our biggest thing also is not just return to the source, but then you got to listen to it from an African-centered, our people teaching, just like we listen to Asa Hilliard. Dropping that knowledge today, you sit down and we listen. White people talk that shit too, but you won't listen like it is when you listen to him breaking it down and telling us like that. They don't talk to us like that and telling us how to look into the keys of studying Kemet.
And they ain't gonna show you no pictorials like that.
Right. Yeah. So we always say African-centered perspective. These scholars, and we was bigging up Diop, them dudes was deep. We just don't know. It's up to us
to put them back on the pedestals, which they have, they ancient pharaohs, just like the ancient Imhoteps and the ancient Khufus and who else, these dudes is that good because they've opened our mind and they got us grown men feeling great about ourselves, knowledge of self, who we are. That didn't just come from nowhere. Them dudes had to write books. They had to do all these videos that we watching still today. That's a record. The record that he got right now is better than some of the videos that people putting out now. That Asa Hilliard, Masters, Keys to Study Ancient Kemet. We just was listening to a video with Dr. Ben the other day. He telling us about all that stuff that as you talking about dealing with the ancient Israelites. That shit didn't start till 1700. Well, we at 1700, as he said. You wouldn't listen to their story if you knew your story. And I'm talking too long. Black power, y'all. Shit.
Man, yeah.
Hey, so everybody on the panel, I sent the videos to. Jonathan, I sent you an extra one. It's Returning to the Source by Asa Hilliard. And I was just looking, I don't see that you joined you're not obligated to at all. But I don't see that you joined the group of Sankofa 180 Degrees.
How do I do it?
Write this down. You got your pen and paper?
Okay, hold on.
I tried to send you an invite, but it doesn't come up. So
yeah, I got a different phone. This is no, actually this is my new phone. I've been on another one. So this is my first time linking with y'all on this one. It's a different Facebook. But what you got?
So you got a different Facebook. So I sent it to your old one. So
yeah,
so either way, it
would be a beautiful thing. But it's fine. Just give me the link.
Okay, Sankofa 180.
Is that in parentheses?
Sankofa. 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 And then 180 degrees. So you'll put 180 plus the degree mark. And then just go to Facebook and you can join that group. And then you'll have a whole bunch of stuff, man. You'll get all the alerts when we're getting ready to go live. So if you can look on your phone, if you can look on your messenger right now and tell me if you received the videos I sent you.
Okay, hold on. No. Not. Let me go to the old one.
Right.
I got Radera texting me, Jamie.
I just talked to him. I just talked to him a little minute ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you say he got COVID. Let me see. I'm at my old one now. Just a moment. Would that be from you, Mr. Artist, or from Sankofa?
Probably be from me.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have it. I don't have it.
Okay. So send me your Facebook thing. Look on it and join my Facebook.
Okay, Andre Artister?
No, Lorenzo Artister. Andre's my brother.
I do that every time.
I know it. So look under Lorenzo. You guys know me as Renard, but look under Lorenzo Artister, and then send me an invite, and then I'll redo that whole shit.
Okay, got it.
Hey, so family, we're gonna go ahead and close it out, man. I know Unc got to go take care of the queen.
Yeah, let's close out, and then let me take care of Jonathan real quick before we sign off all the way.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I might be on my. I just texted you.
Hey, we got to find out. Okay, yeah. We do that. Hey, so listen, family. Listen, family. listen, don't forget, first Sunday every month, we do the children's book read. Get the kids together, and we do the book read. We read these nice, really, really nice books, children's African books, African-centered books, dealing with kings, ancient kings and queens, real kings and queens, times and events. Join us, man. Bring the kids. We do a drawing. Put your name in the chat. We spin the wheel. You win a free book. We mail it right to your house. Don't cost you nothing, man. Free of charge. All we ask is the child do the next book read. That's all we ask, and that's not mandatory. We just ask that, right? But it's really, really good books, man. Good quality books that we sending out to the kids. Real good books, man. I'm in Hotep of Ancient Kemet, right? Good books, man. Got another one, man. Right, Queen. You know what I'm saying? Good books, man. That you can we mail right to you. Don't cost you nothing, man. We just trying to keep the Black history going for the kids. And that's what this is about, family. This is exactly what this is about. You know what I'm saying? Reaching the youth, the kids. You know what I'm saying? Against DeSantis and other states is they rewriting the history, man, right in our face. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, DeSantis said that the slaves benefited from slavery. He said that they gained skills from slavery. So it wasn't all bad, is what he was saying. So I'm just saying, like, we gotta kill that kind of nonsense, that kind of talk, man, because that's just really ridiculous talk, right? What can you teach a people that built the pyramids? Tell me that. What can you teach them? What kind of benefit of slavery can they get? So anyway, I don't want to go off on a tangent. Anyway, family, come on. Hey, just come on and join us.
He said, "Don't get me started."
Yeah, just come on in, man, and bring the kids, man. And a lot of the parents, y'all need to pay attention to, because we even to the books. These books got some power in them. These books for these kids, they got some real live power in them, man, where you gonna definitely learn something if you read it. Okay, so that's guaranteed. I guarantee you're gonna learn something. So that's all I got, man. Like, subscribe, share, give us a comment, let us know how you feel, man. And don't be ashamed to join in, man, the conversation. All right, family, y'all go ahead, man, and close out, fam.
Yeah, I just want to say to Jonathan, I sent you Sankofa's 180 degrees, so you can get on the Facebook group page. All right, so just type that in when you go onto your Facebook, and you'll be able to go to the group and join. And
Okay.
And then you got the other videos, obviously.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm in.
Yeah, so you better research from there too. And then if you were studying, man, you can always hit us up during the week, man, and we'll do what we can to join in and group everybody up.
Okay.
But we're definitely on Fridays and Saturdays. So thank you for everybody, participating in the presentation. And I know Carrie appreciates it. I'm just gonna go and do her birthday thing, man. Thank you, Gerald. Thank you, Jamie, for always running the controls, man. And Jonathan, man, big ups to you, King.
Absolutely, man. Ditto.
Go ahead, Gerald.
Peace out, fam. It was a good presentation. Real nice presentation. It's always good when we lean back on, those elders, those scholars that really drop the information. I always lean on them, and when we do that, that makes us look better. So, as you kept saying, I got some shit for us. You really, presented something that is going to be useful for a bunch of people. I can see the effect that it got on brother goddamn Jonathan. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he came and he got some church. It's Sunday and he came and got some church. And that's what it's about. So again, Black Power, Black Love.
Go ahead and close out, Jonathan.
Okay, man. Well, I mean, it's just been a blessing to experience to dine with you gentlemen in spirit, in mind, touch my heart, real time. I got something to get to my boys tonight. And I look forward to doing it next time. I'll commit to the Sunday.
You ain't
So
gotta commit, just show up.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that, Friday is not promised, but the Sundays I'll be here. That's my, I've given my word to that. So thank you, gentlemen. It's been a real blessing, man.
Yeah. Hey, sprinkle some love over Lansing for me, man.
Yeah, they definitely need it, man. They definitely need some love.
I'm telling you, I'm working hard to get out of here.
Hey, close out Jamie real quick, because I want to ask Jonathan a question.
Yeah. All right, family. So